intergovernmental consolidation. And voters are increasingly frustrated with the number of taxing bodies on their tax bills.
Yeah, I know that.
And so they want to eliminate that. So first of all, if you vote yes to the referendum, what that would mean is that residents would continue to get the same services that they're getting now. The taxes would be relatively the same, although the township board would continue to explore increased efficiencies and cost savings where possible. And it would basically mean that the road district would no longer exist, but the services performed by the road district would be performed by the township. The employees would transfer and be township employees. The intergovernmental agreements would transfer to be administered by the township to the extent that the parties to the intergovernmental agreements want to maintain them. And what do I want to say? So really, what happens with the consolidation, and one of the benefits of it, is that there's increased transparency and accountability, in the sense that most villages that provide road services have a public works department, and they have like a street superintendent who's accountable to a board. Right now, we have a highway commissioner who is not accountable to the board. And before I go further in talking about that, this is not an issue with the highway commissioner. This is not elimination of the highway commissioner. Let's politically retaliate against the highway commissioner. It's just a different way of providing services. If the highway commissioner wanted to apply for the street superintendent position, once overtaken by the township, you'd be welcome to do that. But what it does, right now, I'll use an example, and these are examples from other townships of other problems so that it doesn't seem personal here. But in one township, they had a highway commissioner who was just determining the order of road projects that he wanted to work on and the priorities, and going out to bid and kind of determining that without any input of the township board as to which areas of the township should have their work done first, which roads are in the worst need of repair. There's no accountability about that. In another township, I have very frequent complaints about the highway commissioner and the manner in which he's performing his job. And when the residents call, they don't understand the difference between a road district and the township, so often they call the township. And the township board there can't get that particular highway commissioner to actually perform his jobs, although they're getting repeated complaints about him. So in that situation, if you could see, if that was a street superintendent, the board could actually then have the ability to make the highway commissioner perform those services if it was actually a street superintendent.
So the person that's the highway commissioner now, Mike, then he would retire, then who takes his place for the township?
The township would hire like a
public works director kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. So it's the same way the county would work and the same way a village would work. And if Mike wanted to apply for the position and not run, he could do that also. If other people who are qualified with road maintenance want to apply, they can do that too.
Okay.
But it's an increased level of accountability and transparency and oversight.
So that's the main thrust of doing it, is to make sure that the board controls the decisions for all the money that goes into the roads, more so than one other person just doing whatever he wants.
I think there's several different reasons. So that's the first one.
So the road commissioner was never on the board before?
The highway commissioner
No?
is technically a township official under the highway code, but it's the interrelationship between road districts and townships. I teach like several hour seminars on it because it's very complicated. So there's oversight that they have only over the budget and levy process, but not much. There is basically, when it comes to the levy, the highway commissioner can present the levy, and it looks like the township board just has to approve the levy, but can't necessarily reduce it. And the same thing when the budget is submitted.
I'm sorry about all the questions, I finally get to ask you guys.
No.
Isn't the road commissioner supposed to be under the county engineer, or no? Each
For
township
some
road commissioner,
purposes.
aren't they supposed to be under the county engineer, so the county engineer kind of guides them on what to do? No?
No, there's some working relationship that they have, like for
Okay.
example with certain road projects,
Okay.
but not as far as anyone being able to supervise or control or do anything like that. It's fascinating to speculate why the General Assembly set up this system of roads to be subject to an elected official.
Yeah.
So the other thing tied in with it is that right now, every 4 years, there's an election. So that the leadership of the highway commissioner or of the road district is subject to the, whatever the will of the electors is every 4 years.
Or whatever.
So if we run it more like a public works department, that provides increased continuity, so that there's not the potential that the employees might be subject to a different boss every 4 years, or that there's going to
Somebody
be
new
politics
who-
in
who
play.
no
This is the
experience.
first I've heard of all this, so you're basically just taking him and putting him under the guise of the township board and making it more of a permanent position that's not elected every 4 years. That's kind of the.
Well,
ins and
I
outs
think
of
it will be up to the board, but I mean, there might be an employee already that's, in a position of, being able to be, like, so for example, Homer Township has employees, not the district, we're different. So we have maintenance employees and we have a foreman, so it would be very similar to that relationship that we have now.
So maybe you would put it in the paper to have somebody apply for the job full-time. Maybe they work for Mike now, or.
Maybe the board would incorporate it in, when you consolidate districts, you try to actually consolidate so that you're not doing a separate office, you're not doing separate things, so, who knows, but.
So everything stays the same, and they have the same facility and equipment and people.
Well,
that
if
work
it's
for 'em.
necessary,
Okay.
that would be the review, and when you're trying to consolidate, one district or two districts into one, would be to see if there is any duplication of services and stuff, and, maybe incorporate, like, for example, right now, the township maintenance department, we, maintain like our parking lots, our sidewalks and stuff inside the properties. So, maybe there's a way that, some of this stuff could be done by two, the two people.
Well, yeah, all the assets of the township should be pulled
Right.
together and the maintenance done by
Right.
one unit.
Well, and those
It's
are the
kinda weird
things,
that it's
right,
not
it
a
is,
full
it
district
is odd,
When
it
they got
is
all this
odd.
great equipment that they can't use on the other facilities. That's
You're
kinda-
right, it is odd, so who knows exactly, I mean, but these would be the goals, would be to make them more streamlined in performing,
Uh-huh.
as one district instead of
Okay.
two.
Okay, so thank you for the yes explanation. So if people say no, then it just stays the way it is, or
Yes.
nothing changes, right?
Right.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's all I had.
You know what, I don't have your names because we didn't get you to sign in, could you say your name and then we'll recognize you?
Sure.
Rather than make you come up and sign.
Kurt Eberhardt.
Okay.
What's the spelling of the last name, Kurt?
E-B, like in boy, E-R-H-A-R-D-T.
H-A-R-D-T?
D, yeah, dog, Thomas.
Okay, and if you would hold on, I do have, something that is already signed in, Mr. Duda.
I don't have nothing specific. I was interested in what this gentleman asked exactly because I seen a ballot that my daughter had, a mail-in ballot, and it was somewhat confusing. And thank you for asking that, and thank you for answering that.
It's very confusing, except that according to the Illinois statutes, you have to use that language. You have to use that wording, and
Yes.
actually they leave a blank line for you to insert your township name. It's just
So-
the way the legislature.
So what I heard before I came tonight, I heard a lot of different answers from a lot of different people, and I didn't know which one was right. I've also heard from a neighbor of mine that it would be absorbed by Homer Glen. But to me, that's really not fair to Lockport. 40% of the people in the township live in Lockport, and I'm one of them. And, they're kind of on the outside looking in then, so.
Right. Well, that's a different thing, that is
I mean,
different from the
your resolution
referendum.
makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, the referendum is one thing, and there was another potential issue that kind of spurred this, which was that the commissioner and the village were talking about transferring all of the district's assets to the village of Homer Glen. And I know that's what you had heard, because we are getting calls from residents
You
in the
don't-
city
yeah, that's
and in
gonna
the
be a more-
unincorporated,
you
so
know
I
how
do
Homework,
understand.
Glen and Lockport people.
I understand,
It's
I
like-
understand. I'm
That
getting,
feels
we get
like
the
a
phone
place.
calls,
If
we
you
get
do
the
that,
phone
oh my
calls.
God, that would be very bad.
Right, we get
That
the
would be
phone
bad.
calls, but regarding,
But it's not that, you're
well,
not-
what we're asking is what we have on the ballot is a
Yes.
referenda,
to
question
make that person go
to
underneath
the
township,
public, right, to
which is-
decide
which is a
the,
good
the
solution.
basic consolidation.
So, yeah,
That other issue will depend on the village and whether or not,
that's something else.
yeah,
that-
that's kind of
Yeah, I'm not worried about
secondary.
right now, I just wanna know what's on the ballot for now and
Correct.
answer my question,
Correct.
thank you.
And if I may just
Yes,
add
please.
one more thing to that. So one other reason behind it would be cost savings. Because, for example, like right now, the township has an attorney, the road district has an attorney, they fight over who has what powers to do what, and now we have taxpayers paying two different sets of lawyers, which taxpayers don't like to do. In one township, we have a road district that performs services to the township and then bills them for it. So you have the taxpayers paying the road
Yeah.
district to have services there, and there could be other duplicative services that we don't know about.
Sure,
Now, at the last village board meeting, Homer Glen did put a resolution that they were planning to work with the road district to take all their assets and have them transferred over. So they are proceeding with that. That is an independent thing, but not to mislead you into thinking, oh, that's not likely, because it appears right now that the highway commissioner believes he has the authority to sign over all the assets owned by the road district to the village. So,
what if we don't,
well, that's one
okay,
of the.
so
one
that's
of the-
commingling it now, so.
You'll notice on the agenda, the township board is going to go into closed session to discuss probable and imminent litigation. So we don't know what they're planning to do. I don't think anyone wants litigation because
So
taxpayers.
if the vote comes out as yes, that's a moot point, right? Or no?
Yes, it would be
Well,
unless they do it
If
before
they
the
vote to
election.
close the road district and it's transferred to the township, Homer Glen can't take the assets.
well, they shouldn't, Homer
shouldn't,
Glen can't take the assets
Homer Glen has no
anyway.
right to take the assets.
But what we're talking about is the commissioner, believes he has the right to give them to them.
Well, that's the reason why we're doing this, is because he's got too much power already. There's
No
gotta be
comment.
oversight, there's gotta
I'm
be
not gonna,
oversight.
I'm not gonna get involved. Okay, and, Mr. Everhart. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is what I'm concerned about. So, this road commissioner determines how money is spent between Lockport, the township, and Homer Glen. So, if he goes away, now that's gonna be, you're gonna have all the authority to decide how the money is spent on roads. And does that mean that all the township roads are gonna get priority, and Lockport and Homer Glen is only gonna get what's left over?
Well, okay, he does not decide right now how money is spent between roads, okay? So there are a bunch of different roads that he's servicing. There are actually very few roads in unincorporated Homer Township,
Yes.
but he
So
has,
that raises the question, why should you have control of all the money?
well, may I finish?
Okay.
Okay, so right now, there are intergovernmental agreements to provide services for other entities.
Okay.
So Homer Glen pays money to the road district to get services provided for them. Lockport pays money for IGAs for there, and the unincorporated ones, the taxpayers of the township pay for that. If it's taken over by the township board, Homer Glen doesn't have to continue to have an intergovernmental agreement with the township if they don't want the road district, or they don't want us to provide their road services, if they want to provide their own. The same with Lockport.
Right.
But
Yet you're gonna get all the assets.
Well, the district has already purchased altogether the assets, the people of the city of Blackport that live in Homer Township, the people that live in the unincorporated, there's a small number of New Lenox residents in Homer Township and I believe Lamont. And so if you look at, we have a minimum of 40,000 residents in Homer Township. The census will probably show that number has grown, how much I don't know. And about 25,000 residents live in Homer Glen. The intergovernmental agreement that was a temporary agreement back in the incorporation of the village was because the village had nothing, no money, no equipment, no nothing. So the township worked with them to continue providing services so that the residents of Homer Glen would have a road district. The city of Lockport has a public works department that they levy for and that they pay for. And actually, they've been paying taxes to the district, and they really are getting none, if any, road services for what they're paying into. That's just the way the statutory stuff goes. And so.
So how do we fix that?
Well, I think that it needs to be looked at. I have been looking at some of the audits and some of the financial records and stuff, and I think that there is a disparity. I know I receive information from City of Lockport residents and even the unincorporated residents wondering why their road district taxes are so high when they really, for example, is my understanding that the highway commissioner is pretty sure that the unincorporated is 18 road miles. For the unincorporated territory. The city of Lockport actually does their own roads through their public works department, which they have their own equipment, they have a little tax to do that. So they really don't get anything in exchange for their tax dollars. The village of Homer Glen, I was just told by the village manager the other day that the number is up to
157.
157. So we're talking about 175 road miles in the district, if the numbers we're given are correct. So at 175 miles, our last audit indicated that and I'm gonna round because I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but that the cost of road maintenance was about $3 million. And the village of Homer Glen gave to the road district approximately a little bit over $1.5 million. So if you were to calculate road miles by a road mile cost for 175 miles, I don't really think that the village owns or has been maybe not even paying what they should. So when that shortage comes about, that gets levied to the unincorporated, the city of Lockport, in their taxes. Really, the IGA probably should represent more fairly the 157 road miles and the 18 miles, and then there would hardly be any levy. This is my opinion and my looking at calculations, but my opinion is that, looking at that a little closer, and if the board has some control over that, then perhaps that needs to be regulated, and the taxes would probably go down for those other people.
So there's just a little piece that's in Lockport, and Lockport actually probably maintains a lot of that with their public works. So we're paying taxes to Lockport for that. We're paying taxes to Homer Township for that, who really aren't.
Well, Homer Township Road District.
Right,
Yeah.
well, Homer Township.
Well, there is a difference. That's why
I got
people
two
get
taxing-
confused.
So I got two taxing bodies that I'm paying to. If I'm in Homer Glen, I'm paying just the Homer Township, right? Because they don't have a public works.
Correct.
Well, then how do they get the $1 million that they pay you, or pay the road district?
Okay, so what they get is, so when a village or a city annexes into the township, and this is all done by the legislature and state law, before they annex, say before the city of Lockport, use that because it's maybe easier because they annexed. So before Broken Arrow, the road district got 100% of whatever the taxes were to maintain those roads. When a village or a city moves into that territory, they now take 50% of the taxes and 50% stays with the road district. So the money to answer your question more directly, the money that the village is giving is actually the money that was received by the district when they incorporated, and they're just actually giving it back instead of keeping the 50%. But, the road miles have increased and services have increased, so.
May I speak?
Yes. This is Highway Commissioner DeVivo, by the
Yeah,
way.
the signs over there.
Okay, thank you. I could probably talk for 4 hours on this. I've been working on it for 4 years. Yes, I am the one who said I should turn all of the assets over to the village of Homer Glen. And the reason I'm doing that is because 70% of the people who own the road district, I don't own the road district. It's not Mike DeVivo's, doesn't belong to me. When I started 15 years ago, the road district was worth this. I probably doubled its value. I can't sell it. I can't say, okay, I need all that money, I made it better. Because it's not mine. It's yours, it's yours, it's yours. It belongs to you and it belongs to you. So all I'm doing is transferring the stewardship to the village. Because 70% of the people who own the road district live in the village.
I heard it was 40% of is Lockport.
No, the 40% you're hearing is this. Okay, Lockport has 25,000 residents, roughly. The numbers I use may not be perfectly accurate, but they're not skewed to mislead anybody. The city of Lockport has 25,000 residents. 40% or 10,000 of them live in Homer Township.
Yeah, that's what Pam is.
So that's what the 40%. 70% of the people who live in Homer Township live in the village of Homer Glen. So 70% of the people, you all own it, they own 70% of it. All right, having said that, the tax dollars. First of all, as a road district, I'm taxing the entire district, okay, to maintain the roads. And like she said, due to state statutes, when a road district taxes into a municipal area, the tax collector splits those taxes in half. This is, I won't get too complicated. He splits those taxes in half. And you'll get, the village of Homer Glen has two tax lines on its bill for my levy, the levy that Mike DeVivo fills out. And the levy will read Homer Glen Road and Bridge, and the levy will read Homer Township Road District Road and Bridge. That's my levy split both ways. Now Supervisor Meyer just told you that the village pays me $1.3 million to maintain the roads.
It's like 1.599.
Whatever it is.
Sorry, Mike, I just
No,
wanna make sure.
You could say that, but basically.
And what does Lockport pay then?
Wait a minute, I'll get you, I won't
Okay.
get to you, I won't
All right.
leave anybody out. I can answer any question you have.
I don't wanna bog you down
No,
in
I
numbers.
can answer any question.
I'm
you
like,
have. So basically what happens is, when I levy the 70%, the 25,000 people who live in the village of Homer Glen, I'm levying about $3.6 million. That's how much I'm levying. Half of it is given to me right away by the tax collector. That's my line item. The 1.3 she's talking about is that half that is given, that the village of Homer Glen gets, is transferred right back to me. So therefore, I'm getting all the money I levy in Homer Glen, okay? All the money that the road district levies into Homer Glen is returned to the road district. So the citizens of Homer Glen aren't paying 1.3, they're paying about 3.6 or 3.7 million dollars. So they're not getting that free ride. They're paying like everybody else does, okay? Now, in the city of Lockport, what you're doing right now as residents of Lockport is you're subsidizing the roads in Homer Glen. That's unfair. That has to stop. I've been trying to get that to be fair for the 16 years I've been in the road district. I have, out of our road district budget, I have given the city of Lockport in the past 10 years, $800,000. We gave it to them in cash, about $400,000. And we did 4 road projects. We gave about $300,000 in cash. We did 4 road projects in there where we spent about $500,000. So I've been trying to make that equal because I understand how fair it is, okay? The first time I tried to make it equal, I met with the mayor and the city manager of Lockport. And I said, look, this is unfair. You guys are subsidizing the road district. I don't know how to handle this. I was new at the time. I said, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go to the village of Homer Glen and I'm gonna say, I can't tax for you anymore. You have to tax for your own, and then you just pay me. And the city manager said, please don't do that. I said, why? Because we get $500,000 from your levy. Remember, you get half and I get half? We couldn't handle the loss. So the people of Lockport, you can't do that to us. It'll cut us, it'll hurt us, it'll devastate us. So then I worked on it for a while, then I came up with the idea, I'll just kick back some money as much as I can. I'll get into an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Lockport, which I did, and I shared money with them. My ops manager's sitting over there right now, and he said you should never do that because taxes are taxes and that's the way they are. I had my staff telling me, we need the money too. But I didn't care, I thought what's fair is what's fair. Now this has to end. It has to, this unfairness of taxing has to end, okay? And right now you have a road district that has 18 miles of road. It's gonna take care of and manage all the roads in the village of Homer Glen. If that is not the tail wagging the dog, then I don't know what is, okay? That's how it is. So I said, look, the people of Homer Glen already own the road district. Not mine, doesn't belong to the township, they own the road district. Let's transfer the assets over there. They're willing to compensate the people of Lockport. Right now that they're negotiating with the mayor of Lockport, okay, to say how much should we give you? You're a stakeholder in the road. We're not forgetting about you. We're not just handing something over and saying, the heck with you guys, too bad. You're negotiating, say, look, you guys are part owner of this too. You own about 20% of it, okay? What's a fair amount that we should give you for taking the road district away? Not only will we take the road district away, but when this happens, your taxes will go down, depending on your house, about $400 a year.
How many miles are in Lockport?
I have no idea, I don't do that. The 157 miles, there's some contentious of that. About 15 years ago, I had a very good intern. We measured all the road miles. I put them in an Excel file. I've kept them. We really haven't had much since. That's where they got the numbers from. I think that the measurement is accurate. I don't know how well they read my Excel file because I listed all the roads in the township, and I listed them as unincorporated, the village of Homer Glen and the city of Lockport. I don't know how they sorted them, but I know it's
5
close.
miles, 10 miles, 50 miles?
What?
Is there a ballpark of how many miles are in Lockport? That's all I want to
Oh,
know.
the whole city of Lockport, I have no idea. How much of that is in?
Is in the township,
So-
yeah.
Well, I don't know. It's probably, I'll say
We only
I'll
know-
say that.
I've heard 5 miles and I've heard
No,
10
it's
miles.
40 to 50 miles. You got several subdivisions. Everything east of
You've
Gallup.
got Broken Arrow, you've got the one you live in, there are, you guys.
So you guys don't touch any of the roads in Lockport?
No,
That's
you
why
know
he
what?
doesn't know the number.
I met with the mayor of Street the other day, and I said,
Okay.
and he, again, complained about this. I said, there's 3 things we can do. Okay? We can do this, what I'm going to do now. He didn't like that because he loses, now it's up to $600,000 a year. Okay? It was $500,000, but taxes were $600,000. Didn't want to do that. I said, okay, then what I can do to make it fair is I can raise my taxes a lot. I can go for a real good referendum, raise taxes. I'll get into a revenue sharing program with you, and I'll be able to give you all the money I collect in Lockport. So it'll all be fair. All the tax dollars in Lockport will stay there. I said, or you can give me the money you collect from my levy, and I'll start maintaining your roads. I gave him 3 choices. He says, no, I just want more money. So I couldn't please him. I tried, okay? So you guys are hearing that the only reason they're doing this is some consolidation to benefit you. Believe me, my whole heart and soul is in this community. My whole heart and soul is in this community and has been in it for 20 years, okay?
So
I'm gonna just make one more statement. I'm doing this right now because I know it benefits every citizen in Homer Township.
Yeah, I'm not arguing, Mike, with what you're doing. I think it's great. I'm just wondering, for the people that pay that fund, if you're not doing anything for us, then the city of Lockport is actually using their own forces to work on the roads that you should be working on, but since they're in the city limits and they have a public works department, they're doing themselves, and then you're kicking back so much money every year of the taxes that were paid because you're not working on the roads. Is that kind of how it works?
That's what it is, and I think it's terribly unfair.
So the plowing
And this
and-
resolves it. This completely resolves that issue, permanently and forever.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you give the assets to Homer Glen and Lockport
And
owns like,
Homer Glen,
Okay, so
the township,
we're.
I mean, it makes more sense now. when he
Hold on a
explains it.
second, so we're respecting the commissioner so that he's able to say what he has to say.
Yeah.
But this is a township meeting, and to
Okay.
be honest with you, we have a different perspective, which is why we're going into closed
Oh,
session, okay?
Okay.
So before, I just wanted to give him, the ability to,
Thank you.
present what
Thank you.
he wanted to
Yeah,
present.
cause people are saying stuff from both sides.
And there
they're
is,
different.
as you
They're
understand,
different.
there most likely, in any disputes, there most likely is different sides.
Okay.
But again, what the commissioner is talking about is the transfer of assets. He's not talking about the referenda item that we're
Yes,
talking
I
about
understand.
here.
He was explaining the whole
Right,
Glen issue.
Right,
That, okay, you own so much
Right.
Rockport, I'll give you so much.
and
Okay,
and
makes
that
sense.
is his perspective,
Yeah,
and
for him,
from my perspective, he's letting the village of Homer Glen decide what of his assets they might want to give to the city of Blackport. I see a lot of things here that I feel are confusing at the very least. And, Mike, you promised me you weren't going to use that term, that tail wagging the dog again stuff, because that to me just presents kind of an ego thing. But my initial figures, so I know what he's saying about his percentages and stuff. So when I look at the figures, what I do is I take, I'm gonna look at our audit from the last year, because we're always like a year behind. So the figures I gave you, our auditor claims that the expenditures required to maintain the roads, which don't include the city of Blackport road miles, just those 175 miles, because we're not doing anything for you, is $3,029,034. And if I accept that the actual work is being done on 175 miles of road, which is what the village manager and the highway commissioner have told me. They've told me 18, and just 2 days ago, the village said they revised their numbers and gave me 157 miles. That comes to a total of 175 miles at the cost this 1 year of $3,029,034. So if I accept that and I look and just do a rough calculation of the cost per road mile, okay? I'm looking at about $17,309 per road mile based on that amount. So then if I look at the village's contribution, it's $1,599,895. So that leaves a deficit of $1,177,582. Now, we gotta be fair, so we'll add those 18 miles into that expenditure, the unincorporated 18 miles, that costs $311,309. So, now we're looking at a deficit in 1 year of about $806,024. So where do you think that money, that deficit is coming from? So now the commissioner is levying on all of you, even you, who doesn't get any services from him. And if the levy goes up each year, somebody's got to pay for this.
Yeah.
So our perspective in the board is that perhaps the IGA should have more accurately reflected the cost of those road miles.
Yeah.
So then they would be receiving like the village does with the sheriff. The sheriff, they have an intergovernmental agreement with the Will County Sheriff. The sheriff estimates the cost of providing those services to the village, not taking their tax dollars, equal tax dollars 20 years later. They put an estimate together of what it costs to provide those services to the village, and that is what the village and the sheriff's department agree on. My perspective is something similar should be happening with the road district, in which case the IGA amount coming into the district would have been higher, and your taxes, the unincorporated people, and the village from the road district, that levy would have been substantially lower. So we've been doing this for about 20 years, and the commissioner does always say that it's a problem that's been going on and it's not easily solved. With regard to the city of Lockport, actually, the residents paying that 50%, that we're talking about, like from the annexation and stuff, I don't believe the commissioner could change that because that's a state law. And it happens in every township. It happens in Orland. And in fact, the residents of the city of Lockport that live in Lockport Township, the same thing occurs. 50% of their levy goes to the Lockport Township Road District.
Yeah.
So that's not an unusual, I mean, like it or not, I'm not saying whether, that's not our issue. It is a statewide procedure that happens, and I don't know, and I'm not a legislator, but it was always with the understanding that you need all of those roads, just like you need the county road to get to your road. So a certain amount of revenue still needs to remain in those other districts, and that was the thought process. But I do feel that the taxation could have been lower and could have been worked out better in regard to the IGA. But again, we're talking about, going back, we're talking about the referenda and the ability to consolidate. This is something that has occurred in 2018. It's a start towards consolidating government and bringing those layers, as everybody says,